Okay, man, I gotta know, how did you do this?
So we made this as difficult for ourselves as we possibly could, I guess. Every single piece of gear that we needed to put anywhere needed to be suspended over the lake. The salt's enormously corrosive, so we had 2 sets. Eric essentially blasted a laser through a jug of water.
What? Question, what are these little probes sticking up?
Those are tracking marks. I think we had about 60 LED tracking marks. We wanted to feel like the entire crew was dancing with the dancer. That's the feeling that this piece gives you. It gives you the feeling of mastery over time and space. And having a watch is an analog luxury. We wanted to draw as much from reality as we possibly could.
Wow. I mean, take, for instance, the water in this shot. How much of this water is real?
None of it is real. It's all water simulation.
Wow.
None of it is real.
I mean, it's wild to me that you went through all the energy to shoot this for real, and then in the end, make your own water anyway.
Yeah.
How do I say your full name?
My full name is Zwelesizwe Dylan Ntuli, but Zee will do.
Beautiful, man. So sick. My name is so boring. But yeah, I want to break down this amazing piece that you did for AP. I mean, can we just appreciate this for a second? Just the layers, the immersion, the feeling of being in control of time, swimming amongst the stars. Well, where did this come from for you?
I'm not a big watch guy myself, personally, and I kind of wanted to understand what this product is, and because I kind of wanted to figure out how to tell the story. And in order to do that, I need to kind of fall in love with something in the story. I need to fall in love with the product, and this one was pretty easy. It's a really beautiful, beautiful product. So kind of the minute that I started looking into and researching the actual watch, I realized where its value lies, and I realized that it in and of itself is kind of a piece of art. And so I wanted to kind of capture that, I guess.
Yeah. Conceptually, how much of this came through on the brief, and how much of it was something that you pitched?
An enormous amount of this came through from agency. I think they put a lot of really careful thought into it. It was a beautiful brief from the beginning. I kind of fell in love with the idea of it pretty immediately, and I kind of, the minute that I set my eyes on the board, I just felt like I have to do this. I really have to do this piece.
I want to actually switch the conversation over and have someone else who almost pitched on this. They saw the same boards. I want to have our friend and fellow director Jackson TC ask you a question.
Yeah, no, my buddy Deanne was talking about how talented he is, and you should ask him about, I think he's doing some really interesting things with reversing. When things are reversing visually, I think he's doing that with the horns or with the score or with the sound design, and I'd be curious to hear about the directionality of time moving forward and backwards, and how all the layers that he's playing with that. I'd also be curious, it looks so good. If it's a water sim, it's like so well done, but my guess on how it was done is all shot on a volume stage with the small tray of water that the guy's standing in, and then you do set extension. And my guess is it's volume, but I would be really curious to hear of like, was it real water? Was it not? Obviously, there's certain VFX things like the moon where you're like, oh, that's, you know, what it is. But yeah, it's done so well, and it's all married together so like cohesively. Yeah, he killed that.
So there's two questions there. My first question is like sound design. How much did it really influence the cut?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a trip that to hear that question from Jackson. I really love his work. And yeah, I get the question around reversing things. I think one of the things that we brought to the treatment, myself and the team at Quad, when we treated on this, was the idea of in some ways treating this piece like a palindrome, that we wanted the piece to be cyclical, right? So we kind of wanted to start and end in the same place and feel like we're taking the viewer through this infinity loop. So as a result of that, we've kind of structurally, there are elements of this piece that are literally reversed. Certain elements of the piece are kind of reversed in terms of how they're structured in the edit and in the kind of order of the edit. So with the sound design and the music, we wanted this film to have that kind of infinity loop, if that makes sense. So there's certain elements in the music that you hear in reverse up front, and then you hear playing forwards at the end. That, you know, the idea is we just want to tie the beginning and end. It opens and closes with exactly the same shot, practically, but it's actually it's an entirely different take. The opening shot is it has a much more mechanical, physical action to the piece, and by the end of the piece we have the reverse of that shot that's in a much more kind of flowing state. So, you know, we just looked at the whole piece like a palindrome. We wanted the whole piece to feel like we're watching this kind of infinite loop of time, and we're seeing this character almost behave as a steward of time, as they control time and space.
Yeah, I mean, so the question too from Jackson, overall, what was the setup? Right.
So we made this as difficult for ourselves as we possibly could, I guess. Because there's this weird, I'm always looking for the why when I treat on a board. I'm always looking for kind of why we should make the creative decisions. Like, I kind of need to find that the DNA, the backbone of the piece, of the ad, that will kind of inform all of the decisions that we make from there. And a big part of why, and a big part of what we're selling with this piece is the luxury of having something handmade and real and organic in a world that's become so digital. You know, having a watch is an analog luxury. So as a result of that, we said we wanted to draw as much from reality as we possibly could. We kind of felt like, you know, there's so much kind of volume work out there that wouldn't, and I want to find the right way of saying this without being dismissive of how incredible the volume can be, you know, this is not by any means like a value judgment, but we felt that what was right for this piece is to draw as much from reality as possible. So we said, okay, cool, we want the surface that this character is standing on to be as reflective as possible. So we chose to, we found out that kind of shooting on a salt lake was going to give us the most reflective mirror-like surface that we possibly could find. So we looked around the world for the right salt lake, and we ended up near Alicante in Spain. Even though an enormous amount of the water was replaced by the incredible team at Monumental, we wanted as much of this piece to start in reality and to be informed by reality, to be informed by analog decisions.
Yeah.
Kind of rambling, but I hope there's something in there that makes...
No, I mean, take, for instance, the water in this shot. How much of this water is real?
So, none of it is real. It's all water simulation.
Wow.
None of it is real, but the information of those ripples is replicated, was replicated by Monumental. We worked with an incredible guy named Olivier, who put so much of his heart and soul into this piece, and kind of figuring out what to recreate exactly and what not to was a kind of interesting.
Yeah. What a line that can be so blurry, right? Mm-hmm. Question: what are these little probes sticking out?
Cool. So those are tracking marks. I think we had about 60 LED tracking marks that we use so that the team could basically have very clear and accurate tracking information.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I see you doing here is putting yourself in the position in the beginning to document the data that you need in order to make it feel the most real and the most organic. I mean, it's wild to me that you went through all the energy to shoot this for real on the water, and then in the end, use that information to paste out and make your own water anyway.
Yeah. Thanks. I think it's a great. I think it's something. I think there's something really important about having freedom on set, and I think that I personally really love the energy that comes together when you have an entire team working together under the kind of very specific pressure that comes with a set. Yeah. And I think that there's a magic in that. I don't know. I feel like there's a magic in that I really didn't want this piece to not have. I didn't want it to lose its soul, if that makes sense. And I know, it's a tricky balance to talk about this, because I think one of the things I know and I appreciate so much about Brent is breaking down the practical, technical elements, but there is something definitely very esoteric about, about what we're trying to do here. So I want to kind of try and figure out the right balance of how to break it down with you.
I think we're definitely getting there. Let's just talk about time of day for a second. How reliant on the time of day were you guys? Did you have, how big was your window?
What we knew we wanted is, if you look at the moment in the film where the sun comes up at that kind of moment where this character is bathed in light, if you look at this, almost all of that is exactly real. Almost all of that was captured in camera, aside from the landscape. So what happened here, this was kind of why we did. Basically, this moment was why we went to, all of those lengths to get, to make life as difficult as we possibly could for ourselves, so that this would feel like this character's bathing in light. This character's kind of, we wanted to capture the feeling of, pure life, Big Bang. We really wanted this kind of, we wanted this piece to capture the essence of life and time and all of those esoteric wild things, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so what we did is we shot sunset and through the night, basically. So we shot sunset for sunrise, if that makes sense. Or I mean, in this world, it's not really sunrise, sunset. This is all just kind of to the moment, the character lifting the sun into place, into its kind of peak position. So we shot this sunset, and then we shot through the night, basically. So we knew that we wanted to kind of capture a bit of a dance between the character and the sunset, and be able to kind of have a bit of flexibility and room to play on set with this ridiculous setup, to kind of flow, to be able to flow around and kind of, to feel like the entire crew was dancing with Morgan, with the dancer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, dude, in this shot, I'm seeing like 2 techno cranes, 2 condors, 1 huge crane. I mean, just kind of paint a picture for me of what that looked like that night on set, where you have all this heavy machinery and you want to move them around your subject in this beautiful, flowy way. I mean, God, what did that look like?
Oh man, it was a wild trip. So because the Salt Lake was a salt lake, you can't put any gear in it, right? So that meant that everything, because the salt's enormously corrosive, so every single piece of gear that we needed to put anywhere in or around near to our lead needed to be suspended over the lake. So I think we had 6 or 7 cranes. Had a couple of different, 2 different size banks of tetras that Eric had. Firstly, Eric Hendrickson, the DP on this, is somebody I'm an enormous fan of. Really, kind of been wanting to work with him for ages. I've been following his work for ages. He's an incredible DP, and he kind of felt like exactly the perfect person for this job, because he has such an incredible, vast technical knowledge, and as well as a kind of calm nature. And I think that kind of that he brought a lot to this. So because the lake's salt, can't put anything actually in the water, so everything needs to be on cranes, suspended near to this character. And what became really, really difficult was how far from the bank we could place the character, because the character's also standing on a platform that we'd built. So because I think it was actually about a meter deep, the lake at that point. So he's standing on a platform that we've built we've built a studio. We set up a studio on this lake in Alicante. Essentially,
you certainly did.
Which is deeply unnecessary. I mean, it kind of was necessary. But
I don't know, man. If it got you what it got you in the end here, I don't know if any of it's unnecessary. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I've shot on water surfaces like this where they are very shallow, but you're saying because of how deep you needed to get him out in the water to create that water foreground, the water was actually like 9 feet deep where he was. Is that what you're saying?
Somewhere around there. I to be honest, I can't remember the specifics of how deep it was, but
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember we were kind of ferrying him out, very carefully to his little.
Oh, that's okay. That's what this platform is.
yeah.
Okay, that's what that is. So I want to take a look at this previs that you have here, because when I start to compare it to the final piece, I mean, it's pretty identical. Walk me through your process of how much you guys planned shot for shot.
So, yeah, I mean, we planned this pretty much shot for shot. I think that we knew where the key points were, we knew where the key milestones in the edit were, but we wanted to make sure that we could have a bit of freedom and leeway in each of the shots, right? So that we'd be able to edit the moments together that in a way that have the kind of the right momentum that we wanted the piece to have.
Yeah, because when I see the final piece, there's a lot of things that aren't in the previs. A lot of like tighter shots or some other movement shots, some overhead shots. Did you guys have space to find those things on the day while recording?
Yeah, we did. So that's the main thing we spent kind of a lot of our time and energy into, was the freedom to be able to kind of just roam around and, kind of orbit our dancer on the lake as the sun was setting. So kind of if you scrub through to the moments kind of there, in this moment was not kind of specifically planned. It was choreographed, but we were able to kind of, just be in that kind of crazy moment of, let's corkscrew around him and kind of, just, that madness on set that's...
when time is extra of the essence, like the sun setting?
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of, we really kind of created a situation in which we could absolutely moke that sunset and be able to just keep on rolling. We rolled for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, kind of at a time, just entirely orbiting our guy, just kind of playing around, just kind of trying to find those kind of gorgeous moments. So yeah, we gave ourselves very clear parameters, and we knew kind of what we were after, and it was kind of meticulously planned. But then kind of once we were rolling, we were able to kind of loosen up and be a bit more free and organic with kind of with the shots with kind of the specifics of the shots that we found. And also kind of I feel like it's really important for me to give performers lead in and lead out time. Because I feel like I personally find when you feel that kind of if it's like we've got this shot is limited down to a 1 second shot, and this is the in and out moment, and this is that exact performance that we need, that often ends up feeling stilted to me. I really love being in environments where the performer has enough time to really get into the flow of it. We're playing music, this is something that's kind of major here, is that, this is a dance. Once again, we want the whole idea of this piece is that we want it to feel like this character is dancing with time and space. And, that's the feeling that this piece gives you the feeling of mastery over time and space. And because we wanted to capture that feeling, we wanted the entire cast and crew and mechanics and all of the kind of mechanical, technical elements to be able to kind of be in a dance. And so we're playing music really loud on set that our grip team, our lighting team on the, that everybody's kind of feeling this moment of syncing up. And that's kind of really what we're after. That's kind of why we went to these lengths as opposed to, shooting on the volume.
Yeah. I mean, so once the sun set, you guys kind of had time, right? I mean, it's not like the light is shifting anymore. This was a 1 day shoot, right?
Yeah, this is a 1 day shoot to a 1 night shoot. I mean, we kind of had time. Yeah, we did. We basically treated it as though we had 2 sets, and we had our kind of 1 set out on the lake over the water, and then we had another set kind of just off the shore that we used for our closer work.
Whoa,
where we had a bit more freedom.
Okay. So like these close-ups, you're not out on the water.
We're not out on the water
anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So for those close-ups, Eric was in the hand. We wanted some kind of moments to be handheld and kind of a bit more chaotic. Because I mean, the whole idea of my treatment for this piece was kind of exploring the ideas of entropy, right? We wanted things to start controlled and become more and more chaotic and energetic, and kind of, you know, you just feel the sense of time and space growing more and more chaotic, up until that moment where we kind of just flooded with light, and then the character undoes all of this. So what we knew we wanted to do was to be able to kind of have very mechanical, clear, simple, you know, kind of architecture to the imagery up front that felt very locked off and controlled, and then kind of feel the sense of movement escalate to the point that it's kind of a bit more chaotic, a bit more,
So, you know, I ask almost every guest this, is like, what do they need in order to step on this set and feel prepared, to feel ready to go? What were those things for you?
And I mean, nothing could have prepared me for this. I think that the prep on this was the most challenging. I feel comfortable stepping onto set if I feel like the entire team knows and understands a common purpose and a common objective. I personally feel like I'm able to do good work and I'm able to contribute when it feels like the entire crew is all kind of working together as one organism, one mechanism. And I personally believe that the only way for that to happen is when everybody understands what we're doing and why, not just on a technical level, but on a story level, when every member of the team is invested in the objective of the piece. I think that's
right.
I think that's really important. So what I need when I step on set is that the feeling of common purpose, I guess. Once again, weird and esoteric.
No, I mean, okay, but how do you give everyone that, right? What do you give them to help them understand exactly what it is that you all are after that day?
I think it comes down to making sure that you spend the time and attention to sit down with, for me, I sit down with my HODs and I explained this idea, and I explained to them that I want their team to entirely understand what we're all doing, and kind of all of the greatest collaborators that I've worked with instinctually know that and do that anyway. And so I think it just comes down to, and that's what's difficult about commercial filmmaking, is you so often you dropped into a place and you meet people that you haven't worked with before, and now all of a sudden you all have to be kind of, this team, and that's the joy and the difficulty of what we do. I mean, in long form filmmaking, it gets so much easier after a while because everybody gets to know their role. You smooth out the systems, you get things in a more solid state of flow. But on a one-day shoot, you kind of drop in, and your desk op was a stranger before that, and you want them to be kind of feeling the starlight. So it's just about what you do is just take the time, spend the time to go, okay, cool, let's stop here. Let's just make sure that everybody understands exactly why, what we're doing, at this moment we want the starlight to gently kind of, twinkle in his eyes as and explaining also to people that we want them to use their feelings as well as to use their technical knowledge, because I think the beauty of what we do is it's where being a technician and an artist meet, and that's the crazy thing, and so
that's the crazy thing.
So I don't know. I think.
God, but how do you communicate to someone who's very technical with what they do, to create, like you said, with their feelings?
I think you need to help people feel safe enough to create with their feelings, right? I think that I think that you create from like a place of being in touch with your inner child, right? So, and you know, you need that child to feel safe. So I believe that no matter how technical anybody is, I think we all have this kind of child that wants to play and create. And I think the more we can, the more that you can create that sense of safety and support, I think the more that people are able to kind of tap into that place of bringing in their feelings, right?
Yeah, dude.
So I think that, you know, so much of filmmaking can be very militaristic, right? And there's like, you know, time, pressure, you know, there's so many different kind of elements at play that put people in it's a high stress environment.
Yeah.
So if you can put people at ease, and it's exactly what you're doing with me and why I'm able to explain this to you, if you can put people at ease and make them feel, you know, safe enough, they'll share with you and they'll share with the project, and it kind of just leads everybody to, you know, create from a place of soul and emotion and heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the most ineffective I've ever been as a creator, especially on set, is one that I don't feel comfortable in, right? I'm second guessing myself, or I'm stressed out about my dynamic and how I'm working with this one person. You know, it's amazing that someone with so much potential, even like yourself, can be rendered incapable of anything under the worst emotional circumstances, right?
Because I mean, it's like, I think if you treat people with care and with respect and with thoughtfulness and understanding, everybody, not, you know, absolutely everybody in the team, absolutely everybody in the crew, I think it allows the process to be just more beneficial for everybody, and it makes for better work and better experiences, and it's that's how I want to create personally.
Yeah. Well, anything else about this project? I mean, help me understand here. What question have I not asked you?
So yes, I think you didn't ask me about the particles. I think you didn't ask me about the particles around the character and the light in some of the closer.
I mean, I think like one of the first shot that grabbed me about this is this one, you know, where you've established this world and it's beautiful, but then with the movement of his arm, we turn things upside down, and these particles, like the layers of them that just kind of move around each other. How did you guys do that?
Basically, the team at Monumental created individual planes, basically, of stars that they could control each plane individually. And so as we pull, so basically we shot this in camera on a hold on, let me figure this out. Give me a second.
You're good. Yeah.
Can't remember for the life of me what head we shot this on, man. But basically the head we shot this on allowed us to kind of entirely roll 360. So we were able to do that shot entirely in camera. So
cool.
what you're watching matches what we captured in camera, and then Monumental kind of had to make decisions as to how much movement, momentum, rotation, we gave to each layer of stars and nebula in the background, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think when we're used to looking at the sky, all the stars move together. But here, I think it's really unique. Even, in this shot here where we're spinning around him and the stars have like these just different layers. It's crazy. Let's talk about the lighting on him, right? Because I know you've got a few things going on, but I mean, this shot in particular, just the edge of his face and the watch even, there's just these sparkling highlights that just make it feel so dreamlike. How did you achieve that?
So Eric essentially blasted a laser through a jug of water.
What? Sick.
So basically had a laser. I can't remember the specifics of. Can't remember specifically what the configuration was, but it was just through a literal, like a 5-liter jug of water, and it had kind of one of our lighting team members kind of just literally shaking it in front of that, between the lights and the character. And this is now like 6 a.m. Just
Right.
you know, it's this poor dancer Morgan. He was incredible. He was just getting blasted in the face by this light. It was such, and just kept on, just delivering again and again. He was incredible.
Man, what a roto job this must have been for the VFX team, right? This shot here was creating that space layer above him, or was that something that was practical?
No. So this was a roto job from Ho. I believe I believe Olivia, the supervisor from Monumental, called this job Cthulhu, or what's the correct pronunciation? It's like the final boss. He was like, this is the final boss of. He's an incredible flame up, and for him this was just the final boss. It was endlessly complicated, just mountains of roto work. They had to kind of rebuild Morgan the Dancer's movements so that they could kind of emulate the movement of light to match certain moments. As you can tell, I'm not the most technical guy, but I can tell you that they did a lot of work.
I imagine. I mean, so this shot in real life, when you walk away on set, it's black up there, right? Probably not as much to look at. When you walked away after shooting this day, how did you feel?
Felt invigorated and terrified and excited. It was a concoction of feelings. I think we all felt like we had something special on our hands. I think it was kind of, we knew that a lot of this baby was now going to be cared for and raised by Monumental. So we're all still imagining and building and kind of, I ideally want to always be building on what a film can be, what the piece can be. That, cool, we had this animated, but what can we add at each and every layer, that we don't just it's not limited to kind of what we felt it could be based off of just the previs.
Yeah, I imagine you knew you still had a lot of work to do with Monumental after shooting, because of just how much was done in post here, the beautiful work that they did.
In some ways, this piece kind of started again with Monumental. After the offline was locked, in some ways, that's where this piece, it kind of started again.
I mean, I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about your work before this. Just kind of put this project into perspective for me when it comes to your career and where you're at and where you've been.
I started filmmaking. I started in long form. I started my career. I made an indie feature a while back, and it was kind of after that I jumped into commercial work, and have kind of been straddling commercial work and long form filmmaking. And I've been shooting ads for almost a decade now. It's been a while. I think this piece came about. There was a piece I shot for a company called Woolworths in South Africa that was kind of quite an abstract piece, and this piece came about off of the back of that. So that was kind of something that was featured on Eye Candy, and I think kind of that kind of got it in front of quite a lot of eyes that got, got people quite excited about that. And I think that kind of led to this. There's a shot in that you can kind of see, there's themes and there's shots in that work that you can see the logical trajectory that, somebody went, okay, cool, well, we see that, we want that here. And it made sense for this, it made sense for this board. So that was kind of the arc there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how like the projects we've done in the past influence the projects we do in the future. Do you think that's always the case?
I don't think there's a world in which the projects we've done in the past don't influence the projects we do in the future. I feel like we learn and grow and become the filmmakers that we are on every job, and that informs what we make next. I don't know, I can personally always quite easily follow a thread for the kind of work that's led to the next in my career. So, I mean, it does feel to me very much like what we put into each job now leads to what comes next.
How selective are you with the projects that you choose to pour yourself into? How do you know which ones to invest in, right?
I'm pretty selective with the projects I take on, because I want to be able to kind of just add a net positive to the work, and I can only do that if I believe that there's value to the idea, that there's kind of something to turn into, that we can turn it into something special, something that I can love at least.
Yeah. Were you always like that? Was there a part like earlier in your career where you were less selective?
Definitely. I think, I think the beginning of my commercial career, I didn't quite understand necessarily. I think at some point you just want to make the best possible thing you can, even when it's not the best thing, right? I don't know how to. I don't even when the script's not something that I necessarily believe in. I've made some things that I don't love, but I always believed at some point there was something in everything that I did. Even the work I look back on now that kind of I know was kind of stepping stones, but I feel like I learned something on every job. But yeah, there's definitely did some work I'm not super proud of, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's inevitable, dude. I think that happens to everyone. I think we've all got to start somewhere. What would you say to a filmmaker who looks at a piece like you did here for AP, or any work that you do, as this unattainable feat to get to? I mean, I think most filmmakers just want to make work that's as beautiful as this. Someone who's maybe just at the beginning of their journey, what would you have to say to them?
I mean, I'd say play the long game. I'd say build relationships with people you trust and respect. I'd say learn to do this with your friends, or learn to be friends with the people you do this with. I'd say enjoy it, love it, but pour yourself into it, and treat people well. Look after your collaborators, look after your teams. Yeah.
Well, Zee, thanks so much for jumping on, man. This was an amazing conversation. I saw this piece and I was like, okay, I just got to figure out how. And thank you for shedding some light on it.
I hope there was something in there that made sense. I'm deeply uncomfortable in front of a camera.
Well, dude, thank you so much for being deeply uncomfortable for this, because this is going to be a good one.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dylan.
Ever wonder how top directors make treatments like these? There's a few ways, but an important one is showing the right reference images. And I don't mean what you can search for on a web browser or screen capture on your phone. Finding those absolutely perfect reference images, in my opinion, is made easiest with FrameSet. Skip the painful, messy, time-consuming search process. They've got tools for that. It will cost you nothing to get started, so try it out.